Good evening, and welcome to Shared Spaces with Quida and Chap. That's me, and friends. Welcome to the show. Thank you guys for either tuning in live or going back and watching the show. Um, how is how are you, Quida?
I'm doing well. Hello, folks. I'm sure most of you have tuned in to see us before. I'm Laquita Chansey, the founder and director of Small Homes, and we build micro shelters and tiny homes for people who are experiencing homelessness. But now that I say that, chap, I think about it and I feel like post COVID, we've been doing more community engagement with food produce and community cleanups than
Hmm.
almost anything because that's what's kind of needed right now.
I agree, and I think Yusef is on the show occasionally when we can get him on. He's been trying to show me that there's different reasons in policy and culture right now that there's going to be an increase in people experiencing homelessness. I'll tell you one thing I learned yesterday. Actually, I was speaking with some people in some neighborhoods, and we were over in Middle East, a lot of condominiums and stuff, and we're kind of like running away from the rats. They've taken over certain neighborhoods, and we're just talking about the culture and the buildings and everything we see around us. And um, one of the guys is explaining to me. He's got family over in Garrison, which Garrison, for whatever reason, I don't know the politics. And if you don't know me, I don't pay attention to the news. I don't pay attention to the news on the TV. But I do pay attention to what's in front of me. And a lot of times, if something's in front of me, of course, it always makes the news. But I take what's in front of me. Um, and this one guy was sharing with me that for whatever reason,
Hmm.
um, the city has claimed eminent domain over Garrison, and what they're doing is what that means. And I didn't know this. He was educating me. He said that they will pay people for a reasonable value for their homes. Everyone over 18 in the household also gets an $18,000 bonus check. So he's sharing this with me, and I didn't know that. So that being said, part of the hustle is that a lot of slumlords and stuff, and we already have a problem with the abandoned miniums. We already have a problem with vacant lots. What people do is when they catch word or when that an area is about to become eminent domain for whatever
Hmm.
reason, whether it's highways or city infrastructure, whatever the policy and legislation is, um, landlords will come in and scoop up all the vacant lots
Right.
and sit on them, right?
Hmm.
They'll
Yeah.
sit on them. They'll buy them cheap. They'll buy them through whatever program, or they'll just get them cheap. They'll get a stockpile of vacant lots in a neighborhood, let them rot,
Hmm.
and they're rewarded for that because what happens is they know that it's coming, the eminent domain, so they know they'll get fair market value for the homes from the city. So it's guaranteed money. All they got to do is sit and wait, and it's better than a bank account. They make more money than sitting on interest, right? So they'll buy the properties, let them sit. They'll even establish residency for like family members and people they know. They'll establish that as a residence for people, even if no one's staying there, so that that person receives an $18,000 bonus check when the eminent domain is acted on. So I'm not an expert in this. I'm just learning this on the street from people who do understand it. And so, from my understanding, is I didn't even know that's part of the problem. I know some of the reasons that some buildings are vacant, but apparently that's a big hustle,
Yeah.
and it sounds good.
Yeah, to your point, there are several hustles that keep Baltimore's vacant number and abandonments numbers up. But to your point, eminent domain is the reason a lot of people are losing their homes. What's interesting, though, is that you're saying that people over the age of 18 get a check, and that is
$18,000 check just for
yeah,
being
that's
a
something
resident in the
that
home.
I didn't know, and I'm wondering though what qualifies that? Because what
You,
is
you're,
stopping me from knowing somebody around the corner and saying that I live in that house? Do I have to already be
yeah.
getting mail there? Like
So
what is
that's
it? Yeah.
I don't understand the details, and I should have asked the guy I was talking to get on the show tonight. I just didn't think of it. I didn't think we'd be talking about it, but um, I should text him, see if he wants to get
Yeah, I
on.
mean, but
But
more
he,
importantly, not to cut you
but
off, I'm concerned that people aren't getting paid the money that they
and
should be
that's what I was
getting
going to
for it.
comment on. So the other half of that is that people are anyone who has established residence on paper at
Right,
whatever property they're buying as part of that activity.
right.
If you're 18 and older, that's what qualifies you: your age and your residence, as far as I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is, are people aware that that's available to them, or are they just are you is a city like saving money by cutting people to $18,000 check and saying get out? Are they cutting them a check for the house and not telling them about the extra voucher? Like, who knows? Because
I mean, in a
we're
lot
so
of
uninformed.
cases, I've been hearing people are being displaced because their house is being scheduled for demolition. I don't know anything about where this check comes in at, if that's the case, if your home is
So
being scheduled for,
they
you
need
know
to
what I
ask
mean?
their council people, and they need to ask someone they trust, which is hard and to find someone you trust in the agency, in the government agency. But they
Yeah.
need to ask those questions because I'm sure there's even lawyers out there for like a small fee at 18,000. Like I'd give you 5,000 if you get me 13. Yeah, you can shoot.
More importantly, I know of lawyers that are free. I have to think of it. John Kern, whatever. What is it? Lawyer services, something, something, and Shauna. I'll get that information for people who are in this situation because yeah, if people are supposed to be getting paid, most of the situations that I know of, people have not been getting paid to move out of their
Not
home.
at all. And the reason this conversation came up is I have a family in Garrison. My man's TJ and Tehran. Their mom hit me up looking for somewhere to live. She said here's another part of the thing. So putting the puzzle pieces together. A few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, one of my sisters hits me up and says the landlord's raising the rent to over $1,000 for Garrison, which is absurd. And she said, "Chap, can you help me find a place over by York Road, Tunbridge, like Towson, south of Towson? It's close to her job, but she needed somewhere more reasonably priced. She needed somewhere that, her and her two grown teenage sons could reside for around, she could afford around at the most 800 a month. Um, and she said, because the landlord's raising rent, this and that. So knowing that, and then hearing yesterday that eminent domain was claimed in her neighborhood, landlords are probably jacking up the rent to kick people out so they can get that money. You know what I'm saying? And they're probably, you're muted, Quita, but they're probably saving
You're right.
saving the city $18,000 vouchers by raising the rent and kicking people out. Maybe they're collecting it
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah,
Maybe they're, like if I raise a rent on you in a neighborhood, I know that it's coming. If I raise a rent on you so you can't afford it, you move out. And then I have my cousin come over and sign a lease real quick. You in the house, and you're over
yeah,
18, so we're still getting money for the house,
right.
and you're getting that $18,000 voucher because I told you about it.
Right. And so for the people that are listening though, should you live in this area and your rent jump more than, I feel like your rent is not supposed to jump more than 10% during your renewal. There's a
Oh,
cap in Baltimore City, but now we have to assume that the unit is being leased properly. It's listed as a rental unit, and the landlord is doing what they're supposed to. I mean, because if
true.
the landlord isn't doing what they're supposed to, who's going to enforce the fact that they can increase the rent, right?
Yeah.
So those are two things. But yeah, there's a limitation. Like I was going through a situation where someone was unable to pay their rent, and because they were unable to pay the rent, the homeowner was unable to pay the mortgage, so the home needed to be sold. Like there was a whole chain reaction, you know whole chain reaction. But the issue when it came down to it, when the house was sold, that person that was already in the house, they get to stay there. Like we can't just kick them out because now the home is being sold. You know what I mean? People
Right.
shouldn't be displaced through these transactions.
Right.
There are things that we can put in place so that people remain housed. So raising your rent too much, whether the house is being sold, when the lease went from one homeowner to the next, they couldn't increase the rent. a tremendous amount, because that's unfair. That's not proper housing practices. So hopefully, if they're listening, or when you talk to them, you can make sure that these things are in place so that people aren't being taken advantage of. Because, like you said,
Sure.
we don't know all the rules.
Right, and me even talking about this is talking with someone I trust and know in the community, and they're in a position of trust. But I still don't know that, I'm not in that wheelhouse. I don't know the nuances and the loopholes and the policies. It's going to take some research because that's a fresh conversation that need to dive into, and I think dig deeper, because as this is coming, we can really help people get a little pocket change, to help them out. Even if you buy a brand new TV, like, or whatever, even if you buy something that's not a good steward of that money can still lift your spirits by treating yourself, right?
Comfort.
There's a
Yeah,
mental
creature
health
comfort.
piece, right, right. So yeah, you're experiencing this BS, right? But at least you can take consolation in, like, maybe the next couple months I'll be okay. I got maybe I can treat myself to some things and treat myself, like, mentally and emotionally, comfort myself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point. It's something definitely worth looking into. And yet again, it's another way that people can take advantage of other people, unfortunately. And so, if we can figure out a way that we can help, or if people have other ideas, let us know. Because again, I know lots of people who have been displaced, and only a few of them were paid anything
mm,
above $5,000, if
oh
that much,
yeah.
to be completely honest. So 18,
And if I'm
whatever
completely
for
honest,
adults.
I'm willing to admit I could be misinformed, but even if I'm misinformed, there's got to be some truth there that
Yeah, there's something
that people are
somewhere.
missing. So just ask questions. If you're getting put out, if you feel like something's unfair, like, ask questions, reach out. Reach out to blackusa.news. Our website has our information, and Donnie and I can put you in Quida. We can put you in contact
Yeah.
with people. If we can't help, we know people that can.
We'll
So
point you in the right direction. Ask your
yeah.
questions, send your contacts. We'll call and do whatever it is needed to do, because just like we were at 1200 North Fremont this weekend, we had been there 4 and 5 times before, and we saw no one cutting the grass. But
Mm.
this Saturday, we saw some folks cutting some grass,
We did.
and
We
while
did.
they were cutting, we saw other people pull up like, oh, we thought we were supposed to be cutting the grass.
Well, you know
So
what's interesting, I think even that is political. So there's a contractor who's having
it's
trouble
always
getting
political.
getting paid by the city, um, and perhaps that's why it hadn't been cut yet. I don't know the details, but I do know that we've been out there cleaning up at old old William Pender Hughes School, and Garrison, our man Aaron, was on the riding mower. He was the one cutting the grass with Garrison, and I'm not sure their name. It's either Garrison Landscaping, but it's Garrison was the name of the company, in the name of the company.
Yeah,
So
I should
they
have had him say something on the live.
and what was interesting was what I thought was interesting was he's a contractor for the city for those type of jobs. So he was out there cutting it. It took 6 weeks to get the city's attention to make that phone call, but they did, right. So our consistency paid off. Um, what was interesting was Department of Transportation and some other superintendents and general manager types from different agencies came out because they were coming out to cut the grass. They're on city payroll, and I feel like what was happening, maybe I don't know. So let me preface by saying that I don't know, but it felt like the city was sending city payroll people out to cut it to avoid having to pay a contractor to do what he's contracted to do. And and I hope that's not the case, but I just don't know. But at any means, the good news is they cut the grass. Cutting the grass cuts down mosquitoes and fleas and bugs. People can walk their dogs safely, and it protects our
Keep
children. Now they
rodents
can
away. Like, high grass
yeah,
allows rodents to hide. Trash attracts
sure.
rodents. So people who live in Baltimore, can we please stop being the litter bugs that we are? I don't know why inherently people just litter in Baltimore like trash cans were never a thing. It drives me nuts. But I need
Well,
y'all to understand that that only attracts things in the sewer to come up, to get
sure.
these pieces of trash that could go in the trash can. But go
And I
ahead.
think it's funny. No, it's just funny because I think even the man, the rats are so smart. Like even if you put out a bag of grass, the rats are smart enough to be like, "Ooh, there's a new bag out. Let's go see what's in there." Even if it's no food or garbage like that, they're still going to come out and check it out, man. They're hustlers too, right?
Yes, it is crazy though. Like, so every weekend we do the food distribution at 2555. Every now and again, when we're out there, sometimes someone who is unhoused or experiencing housing insecurity comes by, grabs a box or grabs some fruit. Someone came by, and as we're talking, they're like eating the fruit and stuff and just throw in the trash while I'm like giving them resources. I'm like, all right, so now I know you're about to go on your way, but let's tidy up the area that we were just standing in and leave it how we found it. And it's just like, oh, I didn't even realize I was doing that. It's so second nature and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, and I think it's just a matter of teaching people. Like people, no matter what it is, they're only going to be able to do what they've been shown how to do.
Yeah,
Like I can only do my capacity is only what I know. To go beyond my current capacity, I have to learn more, or someone has to show me, right?
yeah, show
So
you how to take pride
right.
in your neighborhood. There's not a lot of pride to be had in these neighborhoods. And we know
No, and
why. Vacancy, abandonmeniums, vacant lots, tall trash, like whatever. We get it. But it drives me nuts.
I'll give you an example of like people do what they're shown and what they just they're led. We're led by example, right? So, for instance, I don't know if you're familiar with, but a stereotype of our people in Baltimore, and black people in Baltimore. Growing up as a white dude, I heard this a lot. Like, and I even started doing it when I would hang out with my brothers and stuff in the community. Um, we tend to walk in the street when there's a perfectly good sidewalk, right? Have you heard me say this before?
No, but
Yeah.
because I'm from the county, I also complain about that because
And I,
now that I've been in the city for damn near 15 years, it's still like you have this completely good sidewalk. Like the grass
so
is cut, there ain't no
so here's
trash.
why.
But
But there's a
everybody just
reason.
walk.
But there's a reason, and there's a very historical reason that we've forgotten why we do it. But my point is, and I'll share the story. But the reason we do it is because we've been shown to do it. Our parents do it. Um, our cousins and aunties do it. And so when you're coming up, it's just a thing that you do, and so you follow suit and do it. And we've lost the reason why. But I'll tell you, early 1900s, after Frederick Douglass and everybody's been making momentum for human rights for people of color. In the early 1900s, all the way up through the 60s, even after we had, successfully gotten more legislation to give people more human rights than before, there was a culture in white culture of snatching people of color into the alley and doing what you wanted, murder them, beat them, rape them, rob them. It didn't matter, but it didn't matter because they were not considered human, right? They just were dehumanized in our
Yeah,
culture.
disposable.
Okay, so keep that in mind. So mothers, grandmothers, guardians, and caretakers of children um, learned and taught them to walk about 6 to 8 feet off the side or off the street. So they're walking a couple inches or a couple feet, into the street
Yeah, to
because
protect
it gave you,
themselves.
yeah. So it gave you more time to respond if someone attacked you. You were
Yeah.
more visible. So if someone attacked you, other people could see, could witness. It was just all of these things where you were just a little bit safer if you walked in the street, and you have more time to respond, run, be witnessed, be visible, etc. So you fast forward like generations of us doing that, and we've forgotten why we do that, but the history is there is because we were protecting our children, we were protecting ourselves, and now we just kind of, it seems almost entitled or arrogantly walk in the street because that's what we do, right? But there was
Right.
at one time a reason why we did that. So
Yeah.
just an example of like we will do what we're taught. And so if someone in your life is digging in your butt and making you clean up, you're going to do it automatically, right? It's just if it's something you grew up with, you won't even know why you do it. You're going to see, like you were probably taught that. That was not drilled into me, right? So it's very intentional for me to like when I like even if I'm smoking a cigarette, which I could easily just throw it on the ground and everything, but I have to intentionally be like, no, wait, I just like cleaned up this space. Why would I trash it again, right? So I put it
Yeah,
out and I
because
find
people
somewhere to
don't
throw it out.
consider that
Right?
littering. Like it's just
No,
like, oh,
it's
I threw an
it's
apple
terribly
core, I
toxic.
threw a
Oh my goodness.
banana, I threw a cigarette, and it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, that stuff adds up. It should go in the
and
trash can,
I
bro.
used to be that guy, right? It's biodegradable. Yeah, no, like clean up, clean up.
Yeah, right. Somebody gets paid to clean it up. Where, bro?
And
Point out.
you know what's really changed my perspective on that, not being practiced in that my whole life, is just doing neighborhood cleanups. Because now that we're cleaning up neighborhoods, and yeah, I'm just more considered. It's like, man, I'm doing all this work. Why it just wouldn't? It's counterproductive, right? Why would I do all this work and then take the plastic bag from the gloves that we just bought and throw it on the ground? Like that's just
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so
I
that's
totally agree. And so, does that mean that this Saturday you're gonna be back out at Fremont? What you got going on
every
Saturday?
Saturday at 8 a.m. Yes, ma'am.
Every,
Um,
every weekend, like clockwork, huh?
Yeah, look, if we got the city to notice and cut the grass, then we're just going to keep going and see where it leads. Because more positive things, only positive things are going to proliferate. Former Chief Melvin Russell, they forced him to retire when the new commissioner came in. Unfortunately, to the detriment of the community. But one thing he taught me many things in the short time I was a chaplain for him, and we continue to have conversations and um, but early on, he said this. He just said very simply, um, "Where you shine the light, darkness is expelled." So it's real simple. But the thought was, there's no like in the movies. There's a struggle between dark and light, right? Good and bad. Like no, like there's no struggle. When you turn a light on, the room lights up. It's not like slow. It's not like fighting or struggling or any kind of pushback. The light expels the darkness. So when we're out there doing stuff, whether it's cleaning, delivering hope through boxes of food or music or any of these things we're doing, we're shining our light. And when we go to the darkest places in the city and shine our light, the darkness is going to be displaced. It's not like, are we making a difference? You absolutely are. And that's why it's so important to consistently shine your light. Um, because it'll consistently push the darkness out and it'll get dispelled, it'll go away, whether it goes somewhere else or it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Pretty basic. It's a basic idea, but it's so powerful. And like we have all these nonprofits and people like ourselves that work with us, and you can tell when we all get together, the the light is turned up. Like it is bright,
Sure.
and so much good is going on, and so much positive energy and positive things are happening around us when we get together consistently, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's just like even if just you go out there on a Saturday and clean, it matters. But when we
For
get like
sure.
4, 5, 6 people come out, man, we have church out there, man. It's a love fest, man, and
Right.
it's just something every week. Something very unique always happens and very positive. Um, and it's always an adventure, right? It's always something. But
Yeah.
like every week you're out there, even something simple like just cleaning once a week. Um, you build stories, and that story, those stories add up to a narrative, and you start changing the culture and narrative of one community at a time, and then um, like Brian from the Garden Church came out, he's been coming out to help us, man, and
I was
yeah,
gonna say we're starting to appoint team captains and community
yes,
captains.
Lou would
Like,
say, yeah, Lou would say deputizing people because people care. Like
right.
the guy Ramon comes out, he's
Yeah.
a retired Marine. I won't say former because once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine, and
Right.
he is a Marine, and
Ramon
he
and
comes
his
out.
puppy.
Yeah, he just comes out with his dog, and even if he doesn't pick up a shovel, he's out there making sure everyone's safe,
Yeah.
making sure everyone's acting appropriate. And if you're not, he'll engage you, right? One week we had to wake some guys up, kick them off the playground, and not in an aggressive
You had
way,
to wake
just
a
politely.
woman
But
up.
right, yeah. So
It's always something.
yeah,
Yeah.
one thing I did want to talk about because I don't watch the news ever. Um, and the other night after the game, we left the TV on, and there was like after the Ravens game, I think there was 6 shootings this weekend, seven in Baltimore City, and so did the rundown on all the different shooting victims and stuff, and then they had all this other stuff in Baltimore, and then they flipped over to this story about some white woman in the Midwest who had gone missing and gone traveling with
Oh,
her
her and her
husband.
fiance or something, right?
Yeah, sure. So you know the story, which I turned it off at that point, and I walked over to my wife and I showed her a flyer I have on my phone. As a
Mm-hmm.
flyer I took on a picture of a telephone pole, and it's of a missing woman in our Latino community in Greektown named Brandy. And
Mm-hmm.
Brandy's been missing for a little while now, and I've never seen a news story about her. So in
Oh,
Baltimore, we have missing people in Baltimore that we're not talking about, that we need to talk about consistently until we find them.
yeah.
And we don't talk about, and why do I not to be not to be this insensitive, but
Mm-hmm.
there's people here. We're doing the news about some white woman in the Midwest, but we have people here in the same situation. Like focus it, they
Locally.
care home first, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times those people, unfortunately, I think they found her body and she was dead. And my condolences to the family, and I hope they see the grace in at least getting some closure, because there's families that don't have closure, and
Right.
there's families of missing people that our friend Monique teaches us that they're out there. They're
Yeah.
not presumed dead. They're out there living a life somewhere. Find them, and
Yeah.
if we don't talk about it and we don't
We
raise
don't.
awareness.
Trafficking is real, and trafficking in the hood is real. And like you said, it's not
And
something that
real
we talk
easy in
about.
undocumented neighborhoods, real easy.
Yeah.
We got the white vans coming through constantly, no windows, and all the kids know, man. The kids tell me like, "Hey, Chap, we saw XYZ van. Here's a license plate number. They
Yeah.
came through 3 times this weekend by the playground, and they know to run. They just go home, man. They're like, nope, you know."
Yeah, I only feel like only a few times has it been like I feel like a citywide search for any particular,
And
person who has been trafficked. And that only happens, I feel like, every few years, even though every day on Murder Inc. or Instagram, whatever you want to watch in Baltimore, people are turning up missing. Okay.
they are, and our friend Monique Smith is Smith person is if it happens, and I don't know the frequency. I know that if it's happening, she is the one doing it. She's the one petitioning, and she's the one, like you do the legislation for the homes and stuff. She's
Yeah.
in there trying to change legislation to create a database nationally, a database for Maryland, database for Baltimore City, to collect information, to gather information, to maintain awareness and consistent alertness for people until they're found, because they're somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
that's,
Because it does
maybe
not
that's something
exist.
maybe we get her on the show one day to talk about it, because she has some great partners in the DMV. Um, because a lot of times, if someone goes missing in Baltimore, we can catch them in Delaware, DC, or Virginia before they get too
Right.
far. You know,
Right.
and we've found people living up here all the way from Atlanta who've been missing. In Florida. So there's the Iron Corridor is what we used to call 95 back in
Mm-hmm.
the day when there was a lot of drug running and
Trafficking.
stuff. And
Yep.
so yeah, so people are trafficked as well up and
Yep.
down the Iron Corridor, and so we're a significant port city for that. People are
Yeah.
surprised at the quantity or the density of human trafficking in the state of Maryland. It's because we're a port city.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Baltimore's always been known for trafficking whatever,
Mm,
unfortunately, you know?
mm.
Yeah. Big port city.
So, yeah, it just bothered me. This I was hearing about. Like I turned it off because it's one thing, tune in and see who's being a victim of crime and violence in our own city, and that maybe it's a good tool to help plug in somewhere, but usually we already know about it before it hits the news. Um, but yeah, when they were talking about somebody else in another like state, like thousands of
It's
miles
kind
away,
of mind
and
blowing, right?
I've got people like within a 5 mile radius that we're missing.
Yeah.
Start
And
there,
to
man.
your point, it's like you don't want to be, what is it that they love to say? You don't want to be bitter, right? You don't want to be hurt by it because she deserves some sort of,
Absolutely.
right? But we also don't want our people to be forgotten
Why
about, left
can't
out,
why
or
you're right. Why
excluded.
aren't they talking about us in the Midwest
Yeah.
saying, "Oh man, Brandy from El Salvador in Baltimore City has been missing," and blah blah blah? Why isn't that a story as
Yes.
well? That's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Because old girl has been on CNN like clockwork, and I don't. Yeah. So
So,
again, No ill will to her family, but
Not at
it
all.
should be spread. The media should be spread because it almost should have been her name and all the other hundreds of
Like
people that
50
were
others at
reported
least, yeah.
missing that same day because we know
And,
there were hundreds, right?
and a lot of times, like, there's just no advocate for the family, and the family doesn't even know where to begin.
Right. In
Honestly, like,
so
where do
many
you
ways,
begin?
the family doesn't know where to begin. Yeah.
And another thing, I'll expel the myth while we're talking about it, is that you don't wait 24 hours, you don't wait 48 hours. If you notice someone's missing or something doesn't feel right, you
Yeah.
report it immediately.
Right. As soon as the schedule is
TV and
missed,
media, yeah, TV and media has programmed us to sit on that information because, oh, well, that's what Law and Order. So
48 hours.
right, no, report it, get on it.
Yeah. I mean, not
So,
only that, I feel like if somebody's missing and I'm telling you that they're missing and you tell me to come back in 2 days, no, you're getting paid between today, tomorrow, and that next day. I need you to start now, right? Like start now. They did not report to work, school, whatever.
yeah,
And
and even if they don't have the resources, at
yeah,
least document it.
yeah. So what
So,
else do you have coming up? What else do you have going
well,
on?
that thought documentation with the police and the agency and the government has sparked a thought of a lot of our seniors living in these senior towers, water towers, City View, Chase Towers, all of them
Hmm.
are prisoners in their homes, and elevators are down daily. People are not able to leave their home if they're in a wheelchair or they can't walk, or they have health
Hmm.
issues. Um, they can't make their appointments, and a lot of times if you're on the government insurance or if you're a veteran and you miss an appointment, it takes like months,
Yeah, it's
3 months
back
to
on.
schedule another one or longer.
Hmm.
So we've got seniors in our city, hundreds, maybe thousands of seniors in our city who are prisoners in their own homes, and the story's not being told or talked about. And when they call us, I encourage them all, call the fire department every day. Well, they don't do nothing; they just shut it down and they put out of order sign. Yes,
Yeah,
but
that data
you're
matters.
documenting it, right? So you're documenting it, and eventually, if we can get the right person to pay attention, and you can say we've dealt with elevators being down for 5 years, 5 times a week, and here's all, like, you can process that data. You can say I've called 5 times a week. The fire department comes out for an hour, shuts it down. You can add all that money up, and you can easily show the payroll and resources versus fixing the elevator.
Fixing the daggone elevator.
Wow,
Yeah,
right? Like
so
how much
another
money?
thing about that people need to keep in mind is, to your point, you have to establish a track record. It can't be 1 week, it can't even be 1 month. Like
Document
sometimes you
everything.
need years of
Mhm.
data in order to impact change.
Influence, yeah,
So,
because we're trying to steer the Titanic.
right, because
So
like
you're
you
not going to do
said,
it with a little
five
nudge. You need
years,
5 years of tugboat pushing, right?
right,
And
right.
to the point where it is so extreme and it's so exhaustively traumatic to our seniors
Yeah.
that a couple weeks ago, and this is something else you won't hear on the news, but there was a young lady. She wasn't much older, around, I believe, if I'm informed correctly, that she's around 60, not even 60 maybe. She died trying to walk down the stairs because the elevators were down in Chase Towers. And
Hmm.
so
And you
that
know,
nobody's heard
stairwells
about
aren't
that unless,
usually ventilated well or any of that.
sure, or even to the point where, and I'm just speaking on Chase Towers because those are most recent people that have called me and stuff, just concerned and need, just begging for help. Um, when someone, they had a resident pass away a couple of days ago on the 17th or 15th floor, and the paramedics, people, elevators were down, and then people couldn't use the stairs because the fire department and paramedics were carrying the body down the stairs. And so on top of that, now the residents are being traumatized because they're seeing their neighbor and their friend and their family, their community
Hmm.
family, being transported down the stairs. Like, man, it's it's all bad,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So they call
Gotta be
housing, they
accurate.
call everybody they're supposed to call, but like,
Hmm.
it's continuing. So what do you do? What do you do? Like, who do you tell? What do you have to do to get the city to come out and make sure that two elevators are running? Because if one's down, there's two for a reason. You should have at least two for redundancy. So if one's down, the other needs to be running. Like, it's
Right,
affecting our seniors' health, their quality of
right.
life, their mental and emotional health. Like, it's a problem, but is really going to talk about it because in our society, just like ex-offenders,
Seniors
seniors
are
have a
forgotten
stigma
about.
of like being a throwaway people. Sure,
Yeah,
I was
seniors
watching
are
a
definitely forgotten about.
watching a streamer today who was joking, but not. He said, "Oh, this whatever." He's playing a video game. Me and the kids are watching him stream this video game, and he's like, "This character is old, or he's like slow and useless, kind of like old people." Just kidding, but that's the stigma.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, everything I do, I'm empowered by like you, my sisters, my wife, first and foremost, God, my wife, you guys, and many seniors in this community who guide me wisely and point to where needs need to be met.
Right.
They have great value, but we're not taking care of them. Another thing I was thinking about, I think we talked about before, is we're paying kids minimum. What's minimum wage? Like 15 an hour or something, right? Um, so kids are making around over $2,000 a month if you work 40 hours at minimum wage. But Social Security checks don't even meet minimum wage requirements that the government set as a standard for survival in the United States. This is a right. So if $15 an hour is the minimum wage to survive in the United States reasonably,
Mm.
then why are seniors getting $700 a month in Social Security and expected to survive on that?
Right. Yeah.
Don't add up.
Yeah. It does not.
So much to talk about.
So many pieces of the system where the cogs just aren't moving as smoothly as one would think they should.
I agree. So all that said, more positive notes. Yeah, we have the cleanup every Saturday at 8 a.m. over Pender Hughes. We have David McNair with Creative Influence has consistently fed the community for well over a year at Reach Partnership School down Lake Clifton at 255 Hartford Road. We got DJ Duke Live and DJ Five Star who's been doing DJ classes in rec centers, teaching our kids math through music, and that's the name of the program, Math Through Music. I'm teaching them to be DJs, low key teaching them math because nobody likes to do schoolwork, but everybody loves music. Um, we have Latino Festival coming up on September 25th at Patterson Park from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. They need people who can do face painting. So again, if you know anybody, if you're listening, you're like, I want to do that, please. You don't have to be bilingual to come out. They don't speak Spanish. They just come serve and hang with the community. I promise you, there's good food, there's beautiful people, and there's beautiful music in the least. So
Right.
I don't know what else we got going on. Oh, shoot. Let me look this up, make sure I get the right information. But do you have anything going on?
Yeah, so you mentioned the Saturday produce. Tuesdays at 3000 Hillen Road and Fridays at 3000 Hillen Road, both days at 1 o'clock. There are
Yeah.
produce and food distribution. And for folks who want to move and get some fitness, you guys can reach out on smalltomorehomes.org. We're thinking about taking a walk from the church down to Lake Montebello and back.
Walks are good. Yeah.
Yeah, just to get people moving in the community, just kind of walk the community, walk down the hill and walk right back. But yeah, if people are interested, send your love either Instagram or the website so that we can know that there is interest and I won't just be taking the walk by myself.
Yeah, no, the walks are good. Let me get this information out. I have a story about the walks. So September, let me see. Jackie Cummings is going to host a Black Wall Street of Baltimore business walk on the 25th Street between St. Paul and Howard.
Okay.
On Saturday, September 25th from 12 to 7 p.m. There's over 92 businesses have signed up to participate. Invitations are out to U.S. Senator Ben Cardin, Mayor Brandon Scott, Senator Mary Washington, and Councilman Stokes. So we'll see if they show up as well. But it seems like it's going to be a pretty fun event. And walking is so important. Walking the community, walking and engaging the community. Excuse me. If you guys want more information, you can reach out to blackusa.news. We'll put you in contact with Ms. Cummings. Walking. So 2 weeks ago, I think I did the Bread Coin event in DC. They had what's called a flash table, and they very briefly set up for 2 hours. Breadcoin restaurant partners, food trucks and restaurant partners come in, set up tents, and feed the community significantly with dignity and love. Bring everybody to the table. Breadcoin is kind of I see how it's a vehicle for sparking conversations in the community, empowering people. You had men who write policy for the United States, like write policy for the United States and advise very high-ranking people and businessmen in the country, sitting at a table with someone who's experiencing addiction, and in their addiction, they might be drunk at the time, but they sit down and ate, and they had conversation,
Yeah.
and they engaged each other, and there was a level playing field on that Saturday, or it was a Saturday. This Saturday, I went
Mhm.
down to Ivy City. But the walking is what made me think of that, because when he showed up about, I think the event started, it was like 2 to 4. Showed up about 11. We cleaned up the area parking lot, like we clean up everywhere because Baltimore, we're used to cleaning. We cleaned up very well, and the community was already encouraged by the cleanup. And we set up tents and stuff, and volunteers started coming. I took a walk.
Mhm.
Took a walk through Ivy City. Um, I just walked the neighborhood for like an hour, and it's I guess in DC it has a bad reputation of being a rough neighborhood, but we're from Baltimore, so
Yeah, I was
we're
about to
we're
say,
okay.
doesn't
We're
it?
okay.
I've been
Yeah,
to
we're
a
okay.
couple of things at Ivy City. I didn't even know. But again,
Right,
we're
right, right. So,
Baltimore.
and it has its pockets, I think, and I found them. I walked until I found them, but I felt very comfortable and safe because I go with God, and there's an invisible army that you don't see that is protecting me. But I just love people, and they respond to that. So if you go down there and hate on people, they're going to hate you back. But we're from Baltimore, and even if you
Right.
hate me, I love you. It's fine.
Be more
So I disappeared for an
intentional.
hour, man, and the guys running the event were like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" Because I'm like a new white boy, first time in this neighborhood, and I was like, "I'm good, man. I'm good." He's like, about a half hour later, he texts me. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you had people in Ivy City," and I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He said like 20, I don't know, maybe 10 people. I won't exaggerate the story. He said like 10 people have come up and asked for Chap. Um, and I said, well, yeah, I've been here half an hour, so I have people in Ivy City now. Like, all because
Right.
I just went for a walk. That's all. I just went for a walk. Um, I just went for a walk. That's all I did, and that's all it
Yeah.
takes. Like, it doesn't take much. Go for a walk, talk to people, smile, like, hey, how you doing? And they might
Right.
they might give you
Building
the finger,
community
walk
is
away,
not
but
hard.
it's not, man. Just look people in their eye, ask their name, and that's another thing that I was encouraged by everything they were doing at Breakpoint at the event. And you had some younger people serving. It was really great, like teenagers and young people engaged in the community to the best of their capacity. And so when I came back, they hadn't seen that I had helped set up. They didn't know that I was in the community sending people their way for the free chicken plates and stuff. So when I pulled up, um, they very much invited me, like the rest of the neighborhood. Hey, you want to come sit down and eat? And I'm like, absolutely. I let them do their spiel on being served and the menu and the bread coin and stuff, and it was impressive, and it was encouraging.
Yeah.
And so after the event, the one thing that I've learned from service in the city is doesn't matter where I go or what I do, I start. Even if you ask me for money or the squeegee boys, if I don't have nothing for them, like I always leave with their name. Like, hey, I
Mhm.
got nothing for you today, but what's your name?
Yeah.
Um, and that's so important because to be known is to be loved,
Mhm.
and people want to be known, people want to be loved. So the only advice I really gave the guys, like, man, you got some great enthusiastic volunteers. I was like, you can make it significantly less transactional and just really amplify exponentially your effect just by asking people's name first. So when the guy sits me down, instead of saying, hey, you want a plate, what do you want to eat, here's a menu, here's the thing, what's your name? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
David. Because now instead of just serving another person at the table,
Mhm. Another random.
right? No, I'm David, and
Yeah.
you are serving David. And now,
Mhm.
um, it just there's depth. It just adds depth to the significant act of kindness that makes it very personal and less transactional, more transformational.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. I love
and
it.
going for a walk. Going for a walk is, yeah, you're out there serving and handing out food and stuff. Go for a walk and watch the whole energy change for the better just by going for a walk.
Yeah. for everybody. Like, it's good for you to move. It's good for you to be out in the open air. It's good for you to be in the community. You're building community, talking with folks, engaging, all the things. It checks all the boxes. Get out, take a walk, folks.
Yeah, and I love Montebello, especially on the weekend, man. There's so many great artists out there showcasing stuff. I won't say selling stuff because they don't have permits,
Right.
but they are showcasing their art and they're willing
Yeah.
to trade the art for um, compensation.
Yeah, well, the beautiful thing is, me and a girlfriend have been talking about putting on an art display with some other artists. So I'll have some more information on that.
Excellent. So
Yeah.
I know the lady, Miss Delaney,
Hmm.
with Parks and Recs, is a wonderfully kind and thoughtful human being. In spite of working for an agency that is very cumbersome and difficult to work for. In fact, I resigned on Monday and gave them my 2 weeks because I just they're and just being honest, they don't do what they appear to be doing, and they don't empower people the way they could. Um, Sadly, I can do much more in the rec center as a civilian
Hmm.
than I can do as an employee.
Yeah.
Sadly, and maybe that's my fault for not understanding the process. But I've been there two
No,
years. I'm not a stupid person,
a
and the
lot of
process is very
organizations are
cumbersome.
like
Right.
that.
So nothing, not to focus on the bad, but focus on the good. Delaney is
Right.
a wonderful human being who is overwhelmed in a permitting office where there used to be, when we walk in, there's at least 5 to 8 people in there. Now that's just her. And so
Mm.
for something like the art thing, you got to get ahead of it a good amount of time before you want to do the event so that she has time to get to you on top of all the things she's doing right now.
Yeah.
Um, and she was overwhelmed doing AFRAM by herself. She did a great job.
Yeah.
You know, but we do know the right people to reach out to and find out what's the best way to do it. So I'm encouraged. I love that, and it's a very simple process. It just takes a long time because of the staffing issues and stuff. But I would love to get a permit and do that, do an art exhibition, man. Like, let me tell you, some of these kids. So over the summer, through our after school programs with the Rex, there is, especially, and I don't know if it's just my rec. I can only speak to mine, but I would say 80% of the kids in the rec are artists, whether they
Yeah.
have an imagination to create from nothing. But even the ones that don't feel like they're very creative, they can look at something, a picture, and they can just, like tattoo artists, they can just look at it and they can draw
Right.
it and define it so specifically and intimately detailed. Like, I'm so impressed, and they're like 10 years old, 12 years old, right?
Right.
Right. So to the point where on Eastern Avenue, around the corner from our rec, is a place called DeVille Tattoos, and the guy's really laid back, man. The guy's very kind. I went to speak to him, thinking outside the box. It's one of the programs we couldn't do with the rec. Was I was like, dude, what if you did like an apprenticeship program for tattoos, or did an art program that could like lead children to a career in tattoos? Maybe they're not built for college. Maybe they're not built for physical labor.
Right.
Maybe maybe they're they have an entrepreneur spirit or an artistic spirit and don't know how to monetize that. He's like, that's perfect, bro. He's like, I come in and do a drawing class once a week for free. And what happened was COVID, so that kind of shut down everything. But it's very cool, very outside the box, and very he was into it. Like, no questions asked, didn't ask for money. He's like, give me once a week. He's like, get them a bunch of graph paper and pencils and graphite, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Make it happen.
Good evening, Mr. Glover.
Good
Well,
evening. This is a public service announcement from our sponsors. We want to thank Quida Chansey and Dave Lovelace for coming to the historic Sandtown Winchester community faithfully, religiously for the past 6 Saturdays, 8 o'clock in the morning. Don't be calling me no 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, so we could go out and clean up, and the field looks magnificently better. And thank you for hearing my cry weeks ago, and we've made a lot of progress. So I couldn't resist. Plus, I saw you just had so many people on tonight, so I just figured,
oh,
maybe
yeah.
go Ravens, go Ravens, go Ravens.
The Ravens, baby boy, did it. Yes, sir.
Thank you
The
for
marvelous. You're so very welcome. I'm so glad to be a part of it and able to contribute.
Well, I wanted to tell you that I realized that as you have come and helped us here in Sandtown, I commit to doing it wherever else is next.
That's right. Hey, while we got you, Donnie, what's the rundown on the I know we got Black Wall Street Awards coming up, and we got a Black Wall Street Walk coming up. You want to fill us in?
Sure. On this Wednesday, 6 p.m., we're having Black Wall Street Central C. The honorees include 3 of the businesses that will be participating in Saturday's Black Wall Street Walk. The architect behind the walk is Jackie Cummings. Have you ever met her? Jackie Cummings, she has Notre Maison on St. Paul Street. And like you, Quida, she's a woman builder. And so she's taking a property, and then she got another property over in 25th Street. Long story short, she houses 29 different entrepreneurial ventures. There's 29 different businesses are in her shops on 25th Street. And so she also has a nonprofit that services young people. So I have to connect both of you with her because she's a dynamic woman, dynamic Black woman, and she's big on Black Wall Street. I think she's the second generation entrepreneur, but her children are third generation entrepreneurs. And I love women builders like yourself. I just find it, if you can build, and maybe you can show me how to build. I don't want to learn from Dave. I want to learn from Quida.
He's so silly. I understand. Thank you, Donnie. Yes, I would love to hear more about her nonprofit and also the projects that she's working on. We're going to have a women's builders show. I know at least 10 women who are in real estate and do building and such. So we'll get that together.
And I also have to link you to Nicole Orr. She's co-host, longtime co-host of Sister Biz. She's on Wednesday nights. And I want to also invite you on our show to promote your show tomorrow night at 7. I'm going to invite all the different shows on our network to come on and maybe chop it up a bit. We have to continue us promoting. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was going to say, if you could lock that down, because I will be filming tomorrow on We Own This City film project. So I'm a background actor for the show as of tomorrow. It's my first gig, first day.
So, Dave, do you have makeup on?
I do not. I'm just pretty.
Okay.
No, pretty cool though. Real quick, I'll share like God is so bizarre and absurd in guiding my footsteps that somehow without asking for it or even thinking this direction, HBO, Warner Brothers owns HBO. HBO is shooting the guys from The Wire and Chicago PD. Those teams have collaborated to do We Own the City. Let me see here. Let me make sure I tell you right. But it's the story of the gun task force corruption in Baltimore. It's called We Own the City, a true story of crime, cops, and corruption. And they reached out to me and my vehicles to be background actors, which is pretty cool. And like I said, bizarre, but I'm gonna do it. I'm good. I'm gonna go have that adventure and experience and check it out. And in the following weeks, we will have someone from the production on the show talking about it. So tune in, stay tuned.
They can come get some original content, right?
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you two for both coming out. I was just thinking about, overnight how, hey, Michael Randolph, how many times you came out, and you live all the way on the other side of town on a Saturday morning, and so that's something. There's something to be said about that, and I know it's I gotta return that energy, and we gotta go help some other communities, but the field looks a whole lot better. It's a 180. It's a 180.
Can't wait to see it, man. Can't wait to see it. We still got a whole nother side fence line to clean up, but we ain't going nowhere at the same time. We're still going to be out there. But I can't wait to see it because I know they had just started cutting the grass when we left, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it looks really good. I drove
Yeah.
by because I wanted to see, but we'll be doing Fremont next week. We just finished off Winchester, and soon we'll be done and on to the next one. So, folks, let us know where we need to come, right?
And thank you, Aaron, for cutting the grass, man. Apparently, they're saying you did a good job, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, it's 8 o'clock. I'm gonna head over to my mom's and watch the football game. So have a good evening, y'all. Love y'all.
All righty. Love you back. See ya.